Oh, did you hear that?
Yeah, I know it. I think it's like a new Zoom update.
Oh, that's weird. Guys, if you didn't hear that and you've just and you're listening or watching, the Zoom lady just alerted us that it was recording. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my God, thanks for coming on. This is so exciting, isn't it? Oh, wait.
Yes, it's the best.
Right, so let me just get it straight. It's 6 o'clock where you are, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Don't you think that's weird?
It is. It is a little weird. One of my best friends lives in England though, so I'm a little used to the time difference.
Okay, yeah, because it's 9 a.m. here.
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't wait to get out to Australia and come and see you. Whereabouts do you live?
So I'm about like a 3-hour drive west of Sydney. I'm actually like I grew up on a dairy farm. That's where I'm actually at right now. So I'm kind of like rural Australia. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, I've got a long list of people that I need to visit when I'm out. So yeah, I'm hoping. My plan, this is completely going off tangent. I wanted to go to Bali in November and I was just going to go sit out there for like a fair few weeks and just work from there. But now I'm thinking maybe January next year.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Have you had your vaccine yet?
Yeah.
Very off tangent.
Have you?
No, not yet. No, we're pretty slow over here in terms of rolling it out. Like I'm 26 next month, so I'm not priority at all.
Yeah, same. I think the 30-year-olds are allowed to book theirs now, so I'm 25, so yeah, so I've still got a while, but I don't mind. Like I live here alone, like I'm just like I'm all right, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Where I'm at too, it's pretty kind of it's not as, I guess, urgent where I live.
Yeah, of course.
It's not a city or anything.
Australia nailed it, didn't they? Like,
yeah, I mean, it depends who you ask. I'm in a long distance relationship right now and I'm struggling to get my partner back into the country from Canada. So like I like have two views on it. Like definitely, like I'm not going to take away, we've definitely done a great job, but like it's just been a nightmare trying to get him back into the country. So it's a bit catch-22.
Yeah, I do sometimes think like the UK, we have had it obviously like really, really bad. But I also think that sometimes, and this is not, I'm not getting political or anything, but just in my
neither.
Sometimes I feel like because we had it so bad, it's meant that it's given us like such a kick up the bum to make sure that it doesn't last so long. Whereas maybe Australian, like I feel like you guys are a lot more laid back anyway. It's just a bit like we'll shut the borders and then we'll just see what happens, sort of thing,
and keep them shut. Yeah. Literally.
Anyway, sorry guys if you're watching this for period chat, I'm completely off tangent. I just love it though because I feel like I know you so well already. Like I feel like we have these conversations. Bearing in mind, guys, just to put it out there, this is the first time we've actually chatted like face to face, if you like, isn't it? We normally just like message on Instagram. And I just feel like I know everyone so well.
Yeah, I think I kind of joined in a bit late to like the HA community that was already kind of up and running, I think, when I started my page back in November. But I remember like listening to you on Danny's podcast, on the HA podcast. That's the first time I heard you. And then I like stalked your page and I was like, oh my God, this girl's unreal. Like I'm going to follow her and stuff like that. But like, I think it's just such a great community that we have, which is amazing. You know, like
something so powerful in that when everyone's gone through such a similar thing, it really unites people, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And like, I think you need, no, you're fine. I think you need that like community around you, even if they're people you've never met, because I mean, obviously I believe HA is more common than we think, but like to find someone in your town that's going through it and is open about it could be really difficult. But like you go on Instagram and like there's all these people now starting to come out and talk about it, which I think is so great. And you know, like that's why I admire, you know, people like you and Danny and Sarah and Ashley Smith and that, because if you guys didn't share your stories, I never would be sitting here recovered and talking to you, if that makes sense. Like it comes full circle in a way.
Yeah, 100%. And I think in a world where I feel like we've managed to carve out a really nice corner of the internet that is actually really supportive, because obviously there's such huge amounts of negativity on the internet, and like people comparing themselves, and mental health is being affected and stuff. And I really hope that we are doing something good with social media and it's not like affecting people. I mean, like, it would absolutely break my heart to find out that, like, say 5 years down the line, and actually I've really affected people in like a negative way. But I sometimes think that when people go through a kind of trauma, if you like, I don't really know another word for it, that you're able to sort of all come together. What have your experiences been around with social media?
I guess like prior to HA, if you scrolled through my Instagram feed on my personal account, it was all like workouts of the day and like clean eating recipes and like very little models in very little clothing, and like just kind of your generic, I would say generic, typical like Fitspo feed. And I guess now when I look at my feed, because I had to do a huge social media like detox when I first started with recovery, because I just couldn't open my phone and see these images of, I guess, a body that I was letting go of the idea of. And so I obviously did a big social media detox and cleanse. And now if you look through my feed, like, it's all positive, and I've only really ever had positive interactions with people, and people that just want to hear your experience, because hearing someone and finding those little pieces of someone's story that you connect with and you really resonate with just makes you go like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy either. Like, this is all valid. So I've only, like, since shifting from that really kind of Fitspo feed, I've only ever really had positive interactions with people.
100%. And when you talk about, so let's go back to I feel like we've just found our topic.
Okay.
But when we go back to pre-recovery, so when you were in like peak HA, and you talk about how like your feed was full of these Fitspos and stuff, do you think that the people that you followed impacted how you viewed yourself, and like you mentioned about like the detox sort of thing? Can you talk to us a bit about like pre-recovery Instagram experience?
Yeah, I guess like I will just like preface, like, I worked on cruise ships for 5-6 years, so like I wasn't like completely massive with the whole, it was
Below
really
Deck?
fun.
Were you like Below Deck? Have you seen that on Netflix?
I haven't watched Below Deck because I worked on cruise ships. I think I've kind of avoided it for that reason. But like, obviously Wi-Fi wasn't readily available, so I didn't use a lot of Wi-Fi like and Instagram and social media during that time. Like, I was really kind of off of it. But then when I would come home, I'd come home for like 3 months at a time, and like it would just be a habit I'd fall back into quite easily. So yeah, like, definitely I end up following a lot of people, and like, I won't name names or anything, and I think a lot of them, and I hope a lot of them have the best intentions of what they're promoting on their pages. And I hope that some of them don't know what they act like. They're not deliberately
it's really it's really interesting you say that, because I'm a big believer that everyone is doing the best they can at that time based on their knowledge. So I'm a big, it's really helped me forgive a lot of like people in my past and stuff, and I am a big believer of like, you only know your own perception of your own reality. And actually James Smith PT, we've got to talk about him, haven't we? Because guys, I fancy the pants off him, and I can't believe I've just announced that on the internet. But yeah, and you actually messaged me, didn't you, and said, is it weird that I could actually imagine you two together? And I screenshotted it, and I'm keeping it forever. Is that weird to say? Because what if he actually listens to this? What if I've just ruined my chance because I come out as a stalker? No.
Anyway. No. I think he'll be flattered.
I've completely gone off. Oh yeah, James Smith. So he put up a video yesterday. I don't know when this our chat is going to go out, so I don't know how relevant it is now, but he said about, when women ask him about how to get abs, and it's like, you're following all of these people that are in such extreme, and they'll go have a photo shoot, and the amount of photos that they get in that photo shoot, they'll just spread out across the year, so it looks like they're really, really lean. And then what happens is they realize that's not sustainable, or they have a really bad health issue like HA, for example, and then they go the other way, they have to gain loads of weight, and then they preach about not dieting. Now, I won't lie, I felt a little bit like shit, I kind of did that, although I never had abs. As a personal trainer, I think I definitely promoted the whole sort of like burpee lifestyle. And obviously now I've kind of gone the other way. And I felt as if he was calling them out as if they knew what they were doing. Whereas I feel like on social media, like you do only post what you sort of know, do you know what I mean? So at that time, those girls that were chasing the abs, and they didn't probably, or I like to think they maybe didn't realize the damage they were doing to their bodies. We're seeing it loads now come through. I have high profile people message me with big followings saying similar, that they're like, I thought this was all healthy, but I don't have my period now. And I'm like, so then they have to go through the transition that we did of like gaining weight and you know, kind of like transforming their mindset. And then obviously they're kind of enlightened of being like, oh my God, I've been in diet culture for so long. This isn't right. I don't want girls to feel like that. So as much as I 100% agreed with what James was saying, I felt as if it was like, I think maybe we need a bit of compassion to the girls that are sharing, potentially triggering stuff to us, because they might not know any different.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, and I love this conversation because I was actually talking to Nikki Chapman from the Wellness Antidote yesterday on the phone about like this whole, you know, like Fitspo, these girls that are promoting certain things, and like that, like people have reached out to her as well. And like, I think there's a lot more, like in comparison, like looking at me and then them, there's a lot more pressure on them to obtain and stay at this sort of image. Whereas for me, like, when I started recovery, like, you know, I probably still am a little bit of a nobody, you know, like I'm not this big figure in the world of like, oh, look at her, eyes on her type thing, where I really feel for them because, you know, sometimes maybe they even know that something's not right, but they have this pressure around them
100%.
because they've built their page on, you know, what they've been preaching and then how they look and all that sort of stuff. And I think like, yeah. But I also think too, when like,
sorry, I was just you're definitely not a nobody. And number two, yeah, likewise, that we would probably worry about, you know, maybe what you might think of us having gained weight in the gym, whereas you think they have to worry about what Daily Mail's going to print about them.
Yeah, like it's like blown up, you know, so much more. Not to say that like how we feel is not valid, because it is, but it's just blown up on a completely different scale. But what I was just going to quickly add to, like, coming from, you know, people, as someone who used to follow and like subscribe to these people like they were preaching the Bible essentially, like I think it's important to remember that there is a minority, and this is what I like to think, there is a minority of people that body image works for, and that body shape works for. And then there's the majority of people that it doesn't work for. But even for those minority of people, I believe it only works for a certain time, and then something has to give. You know, like I lived in a body shape, you know, not, you know, close to that, not exactly that, but I was very lean. I was, you know, I was a PT on cruise ships. Like I was preaching health and fitness, but here I was not quite understanding that I wasn't actually healthy at all. And I had to give that up. So for a while, I like to think I was the minority, but my cracks started to show and I had to do something about it.
Definitely. And I think, yeah, sorry for interrupting you earlier, by the way.
No, you're fine.
But I think of it, you think of like a triangle, and I don't mean that you only have to pick two and that is it for the rest of your life, but I think your priorities change. So similar to you, when I was like 18, 19, just getting into fitness, getting a few compliments, realizing I could do a hella load of burpees in 30 seconds, that was my priority. But also I was at uni and I was in a relationship that like I'd been with them for years, so it was like not really something that I probably needed to focus on. It was just like whatever. And I feel like at 18 you've got quite a lot of friends around you don't really have to put effort in, and you're like teenage vibes, so you're just a bit like, oh, whatever, mum, shut up, don't want to hang out with you anyway, sort of thing. So the fact that my key focus was on fitness, guys, if you're on the podcast, I'm actually doing like a triangle with my hands, so if you're on the podcast, well, maybe you should come to YouTube. That fitness was a focus. It meant that my career, because I was at uni, I was just like uni life, and my relationships weren't that much of a focus. Whereas as I left uni and actually I was like, okay, I want to focus on my career. Well, it was like, well, what are you gonna, if you want to focus on your career, what are you gonna do? Career and fitness and then have no mates? And I did.
No balance.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, so I focused on career and fitness, and don't get me wrong, it was a great decision, but I ended up splitting up with him and my whole relationships changed. And then now I feel like I'm in a career relationship sort of vibe. And do you know what? This has been the best balance, because I've realized that actually like having a fulfilling career and even more fulfilling relationships means so much more to me than burpees in 30 seconds.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's like a really big fear that a lot of people have, I think, in terms of letting exercise go, because it has become like, if you're looking at that triangle, it has probably morphed into the like 2/3 of that triangle. Like it's not a point anymore, like it's covering half the surface area of that triangle, right? So like you just don't know what you're going to do without it. And I know I questioned a lot of things. Like I questioned like, who was I going to be without it? Like, because I'd based myself on like the fit friend, or the friend that never missed a gym workout, or that was so dedicated that would come to the crew bar and have like peppermint tea while everyone else was just, you know, getting drunk. Like, and I think if I look back now, obviously hindsight, like I definitely missed out on a lot of things in terms of my social life, because I was just so like zoned in on this just need to exercise. And then I guess that kind of morphed into my eating behaviors and things like that. But it all really started innocently when I was 15 and started working out to get better at my sport. But what you were kind of just talking about, like I'm currently studying at uni now, because I did the whole like gap year for 6 years and now I've gone back to uni. I'm doing exercise and sports science. So right now I'm doing like hopefully eventually become an exercise physiologist. But right now I'm doing a subject which is exercise and sports psychology, and it's been so timely because I've just slowly started to reintroduce exercise back into my life after recovery. And I think it's still keeping me very self-reflective of why I'm doing these things. And we just touched on last week like negative exercise addiction, and it is a thing. Like being addicted to exercise is legit a thing, and I 100% was it, because I would miss out on social events because I wanted to work out, or because I was worried about what kind of food would be there, or I didn't want to ruin my progress or not be able to get up the next day and train, or like I would train twice a day. Sometimes I went through a phase where it was just like cardio in the morning, weights in the evening. And even on my rest days, I would walk like 8 kilometers. Like it wasn't a rest day, you know, like I would structure my day. Like I would get my work schedule on the ship and I would look at like the gaps in my day where I could sneak in a gym session. Like my day revolved around exercise. Like exercise was my number one priority. And like I look back at that and just think like, no wonder I had no energy or even mental space for anything else in my life. Like I'm in a long distance relationship. We've been together for 5.5 years, and like the entire time he's known me, I've been one way with exercise, you know. And he actually, coincidentally enough, he left in July last year, and I found out about HA 2 weeks later. So I've gone through my entire recovery process with him on the other side of the world. Yeah. So like,
can we talk about how the hell have you managed to deal with increased libido, increased feelings? Like no wonder you're struggling.
Yeah. Like because before, and like, I'll be completely open and honest with you anyway. Like I came off the pill last 2020, March 2020. And so just over a year ago now. And I didn't get my period at all. I don't even think I had a withdrawal bleed, like nothing. But I was doing like high intensity workouts, in lockdown, like every single day I was tracking. I was definitely not eating enough. Like I can hand on my heart tell you that now. And like my period not being here wasn't the red flag for me. It was my sex drive. I did not want to have sex with my partner. And I was like, this is terrible. And I kind of was like, maybe, because then it started making me think like, maybe there's something wrong with us. Like maybe there's something going on in our relationship and I'm not quite sure what it is. Maybe we've been together for a really long time. Like this is just, you know, how it's going to be. And like my partner and I actually had a pretty good conversation back in June last year before he left. And like, I was kind of researching it a little bit more. And he's the one who actually said to me, because I was actually looking at these like Chinese traditional herbal teas. And like, there was one that was like a libido tea, and then there was one that was fertility tea. And I ended up reaching out to the practitioner there and chatting to her about what was going on. And she recommended trying the fertility tea because it's not just for getting pregnant, it's for all things women's hormones, and then doing the libido tea. And I looked at my partner and I said, like, what do you think I should do? And his response, and I will never forget the moment this happened, like I can still see it in my head. He said, I think you not having a period is a huge red flag. And that for me was it. I was like, okay, I've got to figure out where it's gone.
He sounds like a dream.
Yeah, he has these moments.
Because I actually had very similar when I was in my long relationship, and I was on the pill during this time. We would have big arguments about my lack of sex drive, like big. Sometimes I would just do it anyway and it would be awful. And I actually started researching as well, and I went into like a health food store and I did loads of research. And yeah, I went into a health food store and found horny goat weed. Have you heard of that?
Yes, that was actually part of the libido tea. Yeah, it was one of the ingredients.
I worked at Holland and Barrett, which is like a health food store.
Yes, I've been there because I've docked in England before, and I used to go and get you have that peanut butter. I've seen it on your stories before. It starts with M.
Oh, Meridian.
Yes, oh my goodness, I used to binge that stuff, and I now know not in a good way.
Oh my god, when I come visit you, I'm so gonna bring you some.
Oh please.
You can't go into Australia with food.
Really?
Yeah, so when I was traveling, I took loads of peanut butter sachets with me and I had to chuck them away.
Were they in your carry-on, or were they in your because if they're sealed and in such a tangent, if they're sealed and in your checked luggage, you'll be fine. We got caught out going from
my bag because I had to eat 2 before landing, and I was like, oh. Sorry, where were we? Yeah, sorry. And so while I worked there, I only worked there for a little while, and I was like, oh my god. And I remember like taking it home and being like, I can take this and this will make me really horny. and taking it, and obviously like it completely not working. But then I read that could probably affect the pill and stuff, and I just felt as if like there was no way out. Like I was doomed, I was broken, and there was nothing. There was actually nothing that I can do to help this.
Yeah,
do you
wow.
think, I was going to ask a question back about social media and your relationship.
With my partner?
Yeah. How, when you were going through so last year, before he mentioned about the period, you were obviously like very fitspo and stuff. How did you feel like that affected, so the people that you followed, how did you feel like that affected your relationship, if it did at all?
Oh, we've definitely had arguments, like not even just last year, like throughout our entire relationship. And I think I look back on it now being like, a lot of it was in my head, like a lot of it was insecurities. And I definitely think like social media is not to blame 100%, because there's so many different things that contribute to at least how I got to where I got with HA. But it definitely did play on my mind, you know, because I wanted to be included in that 1% or that minority, and like actually included. Like I even thought about starting my own platform and stuff about like fitness at sea and all that sort of things. And like I did, you know, a while ago, when I was pretty much at my littlest, I got actually asked, like I got scouted by a New York model agency, and like I went and did a couple of photo shoots with them, but I loved the photos and like the end result, but I hated the process because I was just overanalyzing myself, thinking about how the photographer was overanalyzing me. And it was really toxic. And I think a lot of that probably did come from this idea of being someone on social media or something like that, you know? And it definitely impacted my relationship because I never felt good enough in myself. I think I never felt good enough in my relationship, and I would find things to pick out and start an argument, because then if and this sounds so bad and I hope he doesn't listen to this, if he bit back, it would kind of make me feel better about not maybe being enough. Like, this sounds really twisted, I'm sure.
So with you, it's self-sabotage, right? And I'm a big like, if you feel something about yourself, you will seek experiences to affirm that. So you didn't feel good enough, so you would naturally just seek experiences that are going to affirm that you aren't good enough. So whether that is biting at him or things like that, 100%. I think there is that element of, for me, safety is a big thing. And I've actually done like emotional release therapy on this, and it was insane. I definitely recommend it. It changed my life. But I noticed that in my previous relationships, have you heard about like the attachment styles?
Yeah, because I have been seeing a psychologist since recovery. She specializes in eating disorders and things like that. And we have touched on that briefly, and I've looked into it, but probably don't know as much as you know. So.
Are you happy to share what you think you are?
Oh, I have no idea what I think I am.
Yeah, so if you look, and guys, I'd really recommend you go look at it actually, because I think it really, for me personally, it helped shine. And it really affirmed, I was like, okay, yeah, like I get it. I'm completely avoidant of relationships. And I think a huge part, like from working with my therapist and things, a huge part of that stems from like that long relationship that I had where I really didn't feel good enough, but also like some other things. And I notice now that I've recently just split up with my boyfriend, and I find it so easy to shut things down because I'm so scared that I'm going to fall back into sort of like old habits and like that feeling of like, I guess, not worthy enough. So as soon as I see like maybe like one red flag or two, I'm like, see ya, you're good. And I don't think that's necessarily healthy, but I am also a big believer that the right person for sure work through. But anyway, tangent. But yeah, I generally do feel as though social media and that sort of time of our lives can completely distort how you view yourself, but also then completely distort the relationships that you're having with people. I remember pushing friends away and being just because thinking, oh, I wonder what they're thinking about me, so I don't want to think about what they're potentially thinking about me, because I'd rather just not be friends with them and just completely push them away and isolate myself.
Yeah, no, and I can relate to that as well. But like, you said something, and like falling back into that, like you avoid because you feel like it. I kind of feel like that right now, like, because I know how different I am to be around. I sometimes have this fear, and it may be a bit irrational, I'm not sure, but like I sometimes have this fear that when my partner gets back to Australia, I'm going to fall back into all those old habits. And like, that's something I've definitely thought about, because and like, I don't know whether it's necessarily all to do with me or, you know, I think there's both sides to it, because like I've grown a lot in the last 12 months and he hasn't been here for any of it. And although he has supported me from the other side of the world, it's still very different. And I think when he first gets back, of course, it's going to be great and it's going to be like a honeymoon phase all over again. But I feel like we're going to have, at least in my opinion, I feel like we're going to have to learn each other again, because I'm different.
Yeah.
It does excite me, but it also, like, I also have that fear of like, what happens if I fall back into those old habits?
But saying that, so I have recently gone back to the gym, and I spoke to my personal trainer about this, who is incredible. He's like really into mindset. His wife is like really witchy and spiritual. Like they're just the
Love that.
couple. And he was saying, but like, you won't go back into that because you're not that person. You know too much now. And also, I think we should always embrace the fact that we've changed. Like, it happened to me like a month or two ago, where like I was sort of told that I had changed, and I was just a bit like, obviously, like,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Like,
I don't want to stay the same.
And I do believe that, like, let it excite you and be excited about the fact that you can now grow together, because otherwise, obviously, we can affirm those times of like, okay, well, when he gets back, it might not work. And then what would be awful is you then actually like bring that into fruition, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I said, you'll love this actually. I said to him in July, when he was thinking about going back home, because he hasn't got a visa yet for Australia, because we worked on cruise ships, we've never needed a visa to be together.
Okay.
And we were registered with Royal Caribbean, the company we worked for, as a couple. So they saw us as like a de facto couple and would move us from ship to ship, and we'd align our contracts and stuff. So we've never needed to have a visa, and we were going to go back to one more contract. Then COVID and cruise ships kind of stopped, and we took it as our sign to just, you know, put our suitcases away for the time being and set up some roots on land. But because of that, we couldn't do the whole partner visa thing, because he had to go back home because his sister was getting married, and like couldn't miss that. Like, I was invited, of course, but technically I actually can't even leave the country. So where was I going with all of this? I'm so confused.
We were talking about being careful about bringing it into fruition.
Oh, that's right. So when he was like, oh, I think I'm going to go home on this date, I said, if you leave, you will be gone for at least 12 months. I put it into the universe, and now we're at 11 months apart. So I'm like, well, we know we're going to be apart for 12 months, and then we'll see what happens.
You have to be really careful, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
I was seeing a guy, and Christ, the amount I talk about relationships on here, it makes me feel like I have a new boyfriend every week. But I actually don't, by the way. I was seeing a guy, and I turned around to my friend, and my friend was like, are you sure about this one? And I was like, no. I was like, but it's exciting. It was really exciting and really good fun. And I was like, and if it's just a summer thing, that's absolutely fine. And then I was coming to Australia to travel Australia, and my friends are like, oh, I can't believe it's the end of summer in like September. And I was like, no, my summer finishes the day I land back from Australia. The day I landed back from Australia, we called it off, me and that guy.
Wow.
I know. And I was actually like, I wasn't even that upset, or it was a very like mutual thing. And like he instigated it, but it was very much like, yeah, this wasn't going to work anyway. And then I was just amazed, like, that's so weird. I said this was only going to be a summer thing.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like, you do have to be careful. And that's kind of why, like, I've done my stressing about it, because I was like, well, once we get to 12 months, then we'll try a bit harder. Like, we've done everything we possibly can do right now. So like, I'm at peace with that, but I'm also at peace with the fact where I was like, well, I put it into the universe, so I'm just going to have to suck it up and see it through now, aren't I?
I just think it's also so exciting that not many people get the opportunity to have that space while still have each other and be able to grow as much as you did. Because I wonder whether if he was still here, would you have recovered, or would you have grown as much as you did? So you think when you come back together, how exciting it will be, because I find my best growth is when I'm on my own.
Yeah. And you literally hit the nail on the head there, because you say you've avoided relationships. I've kind of been that girl that's been in and out of relationships, and like, they would kind of have like a 4-month expiry date, and then I'd be single for a couple of months, and then I'd find someone else. Like, literally the day that my partner, my current partner, which I'm pretty sure is going to be my forever partner, so the day that he signed onto the cruise ship that I was working on was the day that I just got out of an 8-month relationship with this other crew member from America, and I was not interested like in anyone. But then like I was sitting and having lunch with someone who knew my partner, and he walked past and they said hello, and I just was like, who is that? You know, and they were like, oh, this is Steve. And I was like, that's the new like crew staff, like blah blah. I'm like, I was like, because I'd been told there was a hot new crew staff on board, and I was like, I don't care. I was like, I've just gotten out of a relationship. And then he walked past me, and I was like, who the hell is that? And I told my friend, I was like, you've got to get me in there, and like, I think you're all right. And I was like, yeah, you know what, I got this. And a week later, we started dating, and 5.5 years later, we're here. You know, wow. So I've kind of been that person. I've been that person like in and out of relationships, and I think that also had something to do with not feeling enough in myself. Yes, which is why I seeked that out.
Yeah, because I actually, like, I haven't been completely avoidant. When I say, like, so I was in a relationship for, like, on and off for 8 years, childhood sweetheart, grew up together. We split up, best thing to happen to both of us, I think. And then I started seeing someone that was the summer. Then I started seeing someone else, and then I just I was just a bit like, yeah, nah, not feeling this. And then, then I was seeing someone, no, then I actually started seeing him again, and again I was like, why have I done this? Yeah, nah, sorry. And I'm very, like, me and my friends laugh, because like once I make that decision, like,
that's it.
Yeah, and like there is a bit
set
of
in stone,
in my family that they're like, oh, Chloe, are they going to make it past the 6-month mark? And that's why I went to emotional therapy, because I was like, I genuinely thought I was broken. I know, this isn't about me. Oh my God, how much have we gone on a tangent, by the way?
Well, I will bring it back really quickly, because what I wanted to say because this kind of comes back to HA recovery, like, because I've been in and out of those relationships, like I've never really known what it was like to stand on my own 2 feet. I've never really known what it was like to be Elyse Laurie. Like I've always been, you know, someone's girlfriend, someone's partner. Like I've never known what that felt like. And you know, HA recovery made me do that. And I, as much as it sucks being apart from him, I needed this time to come into my own person and own who I am. And I have such, like, if you had spoken to me a year ago, I would have been a complete mess. Like I had no idea where I wanted to go. I had no passion. I just exercised because I was like, it's something I enjoy. And you know what? To a degree, I did enjoy it, but it had got to the point where it was dominating my life, and I could not, like, the I guess guilt I would feel from not exercising outweighed how tired I felt, or how sore I felt, or how, you know, sick I might have been, because I couldn't handle that guilt that I would feel. So like, but whereas now, like, fast forward through all of this recovery, and yes, it was difficult, and yes, it was messy. Like, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it, obviously, but like, yeah, I just have so much more of a idea and a clear vision of who I want to become and who I am right now. And like, I have this passion about working with other women, like once I'm qualified to do all that sort of stuff. And like, I just had to do, and I just know, like, the universe knew I had to do this on my own. Like, he supported me, and I have great support around me right now. Like, I'm not alone, but I just had to, I guess, is it pull up your boots or whatever? Like, I just had to do that and go on my own.
You just had to come back to you, right? Like,
oh, and you know what? And Meg Dole's, like, I know Meg Dole does like that program, like Back Home to You, and that's literally how I felt. Like, I felt like I was finally coming back home, and I've told I've told a lot of other women going through HA recovery and stuff that I used to feel like in my depth of my HA. And I was on the pill for 10 years too. And I think that definitely contributed to what I'm about to say next, is that I felt like my mind and my body were 2 separate entities. Like, they just didn't get along. I felt like a complete stranger in my body. And that was such a scary feeling at like 23, 24 years old, to go like, hold on a second. Like, I know nothing about my body. I don't like my body. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want to do. Like, and I mean, I'm not saying everyone at 24 has to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their life, but like, I just had no clue. I had no intuition. I had nothing. And I just didn't feel like myself. And I didn't even know what that should feel like, but I just knew I wasn't feeling it.
100%. Yeah. I always say to my one-to-one girls, you've just got to take back your power. And I often feel like that's why I don't know if I I can give my power away when I'm in relationships where like I get so I feel like I need to give a lot of myself that I end up neglecting myself. And that's why, like, I'm not suggesting everyone needs to be single at all. What I am suggesting is that you need to be really clear with like having those things that top up your own cup and making that commit. I feel like recovery is all about making that commitment to do something for you and to like what we were saying, like what Meg Dole says, of coming back home to you or taking back your power, because I feel like we can give so much, whether that's to exercise, to diet culture, to social media, to work, having kids, relationships and stuff, that's how we end up neglecting ourselves. And actually, if we can just stop for a minute and just be like, actually, who is the only person I genuinely have to live with? Well, it's myself. And it's just like, actually, you know what, like, you can't give more of yourself if you're giving nothing to yourself, if there's nothing in you. And I feel like that's what I found in recovery and going through it and coming out the other side of like, I no longer feel guilty for doing what's best for me. Like I have, if someone has a problem with that is fine. Like I don't mind. Like I don't feel guilty. I don't feel, because it's like, actually, do you know what? I spent so many years suppressing who I was, making sure everyone else was okay, or like giving so much of myself that it was like, and bearing in mind, like I didn't have kids or anything like that. I was just a teenager, but I felt like I gave so much to myself and not enough to myself, that it's like now after recovery, it feels so amazing to show up for yourself and not feel, and just do it because you really need to do it and because you're worthy of doing it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's definitely taught me, and like it's been a long road to get to this point, but like for the first time in 25 years of life, like I finally have this acceptance and understanding and nourishment for my body that I've never had before and I've never been taught. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's days that I wish I couldn't change parts of my body, because I think this like self-acceptance and self-love is great, but you're still allowed to want to change things, you know. But I think you need to have that acceptance of your body before you like, oh, I want to change it. Because if you don't have that acceptance, you're not in the right, I guess, right mindset to be like, oh, I wish I could change this or change that, if you don't have that acceptance. If that makes sense.
Yeah, just going off that, I have no problem with someone that wants to lose some weight, change their shape, like lift weights to look a certain way, whether they want a big bum, whatever. I have no problem with that, and I will support anyone if it means that they're going to feel, it will help them feel their best. But what I won't necessarily support is they feel they have to do it, because if they don't do it, they're shit. Whereas if you want to do it just to accentuate your life, is that the word? Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
for sure,
like there's still a part of me that I go to the gym, to learn loads of like skills now and to get strong. But like, I'd be lying if there were like, if I could get strong and get skills and a byproduct wasn't the fact that I'll look and feel good, I don't know whether I'd do it.
Yeah. And I think you touched on something really important, and it's just like disappeared. Oh, that's it. Like, kind of like, if you don't have that self-acceptance and understanding and appreciation of your body and you want to change certain things, I think you fall into that trap that I was definitely a victim of, which was like destination happiness. Like, oh, I'll be happy when I used to say like, oh, I'll be happy when I finish cruise ships, because like I got really over it at the end. I was just there for my partner. I'll be happy when I start my degree. I'll be happy when I can squat this much, or when I can see abs, or like when I fit into this. And you know what? You can get to those destinations and you're still unhappy because it's not enough. And you then, and I know for me, like with my body, like I would work for a certain goal, I'd get it. And then I'd be like, instead of being like, yes, I did it, like go me, I'm so impressed with myself, I'd be like, all right, okay, that's not good enough. Now I have to do something else. And you're just constantly chasing. And that's what I did. I just constantly chased this idea and, you know, this idea and image of happiness. And I fell short every single time, because until, I guess, you know, I came back home to myself and I took back my power and I owned my story and accepted my body, that's the first time I've actually been truly happy. And it's upset a couple of people for sure. And like, I definitely had to, with like very close loved ones, had to set boundaries, and I had to say like, I'm doing this for me. I said and it was really tough. Like I had some comments thrown at me 6 months ago. Like I was days away from my third period, like literally at the finish line essentially. And I had some comments thrown my way about my body, and I had to just dig. And you know what? It only made me dig my heels in even more, because I was like, no, I am doing this for me, and I'm going to show you that this is what I need to be doing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that night it was really hard to eat dinner. Like I just remember sitting there just feeling all the feelings and feeling uncomfortable in my body, and so much. And like I'm already aware of the changes that are going on in my body, right? We're all so like, and especially you as an individual are so much more aware than anyone else. But when someone feels like they can call it out, it just makes it so much more, I guess, prominent in your reality than it was beforehand. So like I definitely struggled to but I got through my dinner and I was like, I'm just going to keep moving on. And, you know, and now I'm here, like just finished my 7th recovery period and I'm back into exercise. And I think that's a big thing, is that you are probably going to upset some people. And I know, like, I've seen different things on like social media about like when people complain that you've changed, it's only because they're stuck at that like old version of you kind of thing. Like they aren't ready to, because they're not moving forward type thing. And it's so true. But then you're also going to find people that will lift you up, and you need to seek those people out and just hang around them as much as you can, because they're going to be the people that, you know, will be there for you on your good and bad days. So sorry, bit of a rant.
No, I absolutely love that. And it's so true. And it's about like, you will come across people that trigger you, or certain situations that trigger you, or you will definitely have days where you might scroll through Instagram, for example, just to bring it back around to social media. Like you might be triggered about something, and just know, like, you cannot control external circumstances, but you can control how you react to them. And like, if you can keep reminding yourself, like, I'm doing this for me, or I'm bringing this back to me, that's going to be your superpower to get you through. Because I think, for as long as you're looking for validation outside and in other external circumstances, whether it's social media or family or what, you're going to really hinder your recovery process, because it has to come from you. Because recovery is all about your worth, and actually realizing that you're worth so much.
Oh, for sure. And I think even now, like when I have, like, if I have arguments with you know, my partner or loved ones or friends or stuff like that, like it's very rare that we have arguments anymore, because there's not so much going on inside of my head. Like I have so much more mental clarity. But like even then, like I'm okay to admit when I'm wrong, but then I'm also okay to be like, no, I actually deserve better than this. And like sometimes that can be coming across as rude, but you've got to, like we said earlier, like protect your energy and like protect your power, because at the end of the day, you're the only. And my mum used to say this all the time. My mum used to come out with, like, she probably didn't make it up, like she has no copyright or anything on this, but like she used to she comes out with the best, like, you know, tips and advice every now and then. And she said to me, like, when you get into bed at the end of the day, you could be lying next to the love of your life, but in your head you're all alone. So you've got to be friends with that person. And I never really understood what that meant until, you know, going through HA recovery. And I was like, wow, like I have to be my biggest supporter and my biggest friend, because, you know, obviously you're going to have people that you can count on throughout your life, but someone that will never fail you is you and your body. And I think I spent so long trying to manipulate and change my body through training and underfueling, which was essentially torture. And this is a thing, like, I believe you can't trick your body into thinking that you're in recovery if there's still parts of you holding back. Because I went through that, you know, like I was still holding on to, you know, my rigid yoga routine. And then it was, I didn't want to gain any more weight after I got my first period, because I thought, well, why should I gain any more weight? You know, I did. I ended up having to gain more weight, but like you can't trick your body into thinking that you're in recovery if there's still things that are holding you back. And I think it takes time, and I love using this like analogy, I guess, like you think about your best friend. If you put your best friend through everything you've put your body through, they still trust you? Like, I know mine wouldn't. Like, mine would be like, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. It's the same thing with your body, except your body will come around to trust you again, but you've got to give your body complete permission to do what she needs to do.
Yeah.
And call the shots.
And also give your body time to trust you again.
Exactly. Trust wasn't, once it's broken down, it takes a little while to build that back up again. Like, your body needs to know that this food isn't just like a once-off thing. Like, it needs to know that it's continually coming in, and it needs to know that you're finally listening to it, like, and I know for me.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, and if you're like me that finds it very easy to dump people, your body is the one thing, and the relationship with yourself is the one thing that you can't dump. So you might as well just,
yes.
This is the one relationship you actually have to work through.
Yes. And I totally agree. I saw one woman made a reel the other day. I shared it to my stories, and it was like, she was talking about how she lost all this weight, but she still was upset and unhappy in her body. And that's because her body didn't change. Her body is still the same body. It's just, 10 pounds heavier or 10 pounds lighter. And it's all how you perceive your body. Yeah. And like, that's such, and one thing I've like, my partner said to me once, like, relationships take work, because I was so used to, relationships expiring after 4 months, that like, once we had our first argument, I was like, that's it, we're done. Like, you don't want anything to do with me anymore. Like, and he's like, yeah. He's like, no. Like, this is just part of the relationship. Like, relationships take work. And I was just like, I still remember that, because I was like, oh, like, okay. Because I thought, like, and I've talked to my psychologist about this too, like, I thought that relationships were meant to be like this perfect, untouched thing in your life. And once you have an argument, to me, it felt like it was broken. Like, it was just, there was cracks, and it was imperfect now, and for me, as a perfectionist, that's not how I coped with things. And coming back to the point was like, so does your relationship with your body. It's the exact same as every other relationship you have in your life. And I don't think you can just wake up one day with like all this acceptance and love for your body. It's something you have to wake up every day and make a conscious effort to do. And some days are easier than others, and some days are harder than others. But like, I know throughout HA recovery, I definitely learned a lot of different tools and things like that for me to use on those harder days. And I think that's one of the beauties about HA recovery is like, and I've said it a couple of times, is like, it can really show you who you are, the recovery process, if you just let it. And I know it's really hard to stop fighting, because I know for me, I was someone who liked to control every little part of my life. But if you can just like let go of that control, and it doesn't have to be all at once. For me, it was very gradual, and I didn't even know I was still holding on to this control. But if you can let go of this control, and let recovery run its course, it's not going to be linear, but like, if you let recovery run its course, it can do, and it can show you so many amazing things. But I think a lot of the time we just want to, because it's going against every fiber in our body, right? Like, everything we've ever been told, we're now going against, and it feels really unnatural for us in the beginning.
Definitely. And I think you've hit the nail on the head of like what recovery is, that it shines so much light on who you are. And sometimes that will come up, like, I've spoken to girls that have been like, I don't want to be doing this job that I thought was my dream job. And I'm like, hey, that's cool, you just know who you are, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the scariest thing is also the most amazing thing, because I was scared to get to know who I really was, because
it's terrifying.
Like, yeah, but like, don't get me wrong, it's amazing, but like, because I feel like I know who I am, what I want. I know that so for example, I knew that relationship wasn't right for me.
For you.
Like, I find it very easy to sort of be like, okay, cool. And that's quite scary, right? Because you're like, flipping out, like, Chloe, for God's sake.
Well, and I used to be someone who was really bad at making decisions, right? Like
Yes,
I used to be someone that was very indecisive. I mean, I still have my moments where I'm like, oh, I don't really know what, like I have like Nikki, I'll message her and be like, I don't know which post to put on Instagram. Which one should I put tonight? Like little things like that. But like beforehand, like big decisions were really hard for me to tackle.
God, me too.
Whereas,
I
yeah, so like,
myself now, like I'll
yeah,
myself on decisions. So I'm like, yeah, I'm doing that. Oh, okay, okay. And I sometimes feel like I've decided to do it. Like in my head, it's done and it's decided, and my body needs time to catch. Because then it's
catch up.
days later that I'm like, oh my God, okay, I did that. Okay, okay, what did you do?
It's so, yeah, and I feel the exact same way. Like it's just, yeah, I'm a completely different person now than what I was a year ago or what I was 3 years ago. And I'm going to be a completely different person in a year from now. And I think that's also something I've come to terms with. Not just like my physical body is going to change, because that was a really hard thing for me to grasp the idea of and accept it. But then also like my mental and emotional self, like I'm never going to be exactly how I am right now. Like and that's the thing, like I don't think, and I also like to look at recovery as not just like when I first thought I was going to like getting into recovery, when I first got into it, I was like, I'm going to get in, get it done and get out again. Yeah. Pretty much how I would do my workouts. I'm going to get into the gym, I'm going to do my workout, and then I'm going to get back out. And like, as I got in and I started like really finding out all these different things about myself, I was like, wow, like this doesn't end. Like, yes, I will get my periods back and I will get back into training and I will have this balance in my life that I've just always craved, but never knew how to find. But this whole like self-discovery and self-reflection and acceptance of myself and all that sort of stuff, that never ends. Like that is continually a work in progress.
And that's
like I think
excites me so
yes
much. I love
exactly
it. Like what we were saying, it would have scared me before. I hated change.
Mm-hmm.
If like if my boyfriend was like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'd be like, oh my God, okay. Whereas now it's like it's such a like I love change. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. I feel like we could chat for hours.
I know I can get really bad at that. Like
I'll be
on a phone call and I'll be like, oh my God, we've been on the phone for 2 hours. Like
I love it. I absolutely love it. Where can I find you?
So you can find me at Your Period PT on Instagram. I'm not really doing too much other than just sharing my recovery journey as of yet, and kind of what I learn at uni along the way. So yeah, come on over and find me.
Yes. Guys, make sure if you're on YouTube to make sure you like, subscribe, follow us both on Instagram. We love a good chat over there. And if you're on the podcast, maybe you could like rate it or something. I don't know, whatever you do on podcasts, that'd be great. Love you, bye.